Okay, gentlemen, we're live.
¿Qué pasó finalmente con Fulo y el otro compañero de Alma? Cuéntame.
Welcome to What the F is Going On in Latin America, Code Pink's weekly YouTube program of hot news out of Latin America and the Caribbean. In partnership with Friends of Latin America and Task Force on the Americas, we broadcast every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Code Pink YouTube. Today witnessed the inauguration of Peru's first ever progressive president. Pedro Castillo, a rural leftist teacher of the people, was inaugurated today after a fascinating election season in which 18 candidates ran for president in the first round elections held April 11. Keiko Fujimori, the hard-right candidate and daughter of former right-wing President Alberto Fujimori, and Pedro Castillo emerged the winners and competed for the second round held on June 6. Although Castillo won by almost 45,000 votes or 50.13%, Fujimori did not concede until July 19. To share with us today's historical event live from Peru is Jose Carlos Llerena. Jose is an organizer with the Peruvian political organization La Junta and the Peruvian chapter of ALBA Movimientos. Jose joined us, some of you may remember, on April 28th to discuss the first round election results. And it's thrilling to have you back with us, Jose, because our candidate actually won. And so here we are, the 28th of July, celebrating the conversation that we had April 28th. Also, I want to welcome to the program my co-host this evening, who all of you have met before as well, Juan Hong Chung, who is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America and was on an election observation delegation to Peru for the first round elections. So welcome both of you. What an exciting evening to be talking to both of you. So Jose, tell us what the mood is in Peru at the moment. And when you first joined, we started briefly talking about the social movements and how this is the first phase of the work, having Castillo elected, but now there's a whole new phase of political, social, and economic projects that are going to begin.
Okay, Terry, good night to everyone who is watching right now the program. In this moment in Peru, right now I am in Cusco, a province, an Andean province in Peru, but around the country there is a mood of celebration for the beginning of this popular government led by Pedro, the rural teacher Pedro Castillo Terrones. Today we have attend here a very important speech by Pedro Castillo. I think that we maybe later can talk in the specific issues around this first presidential speech of Pedro Castillo that have encouraged and motivate all people about what is coming next for this government of Pedro Castillo. Also, right now from social movement, there is a lot of mobilization because tomorrow, July 29, in Ayacucho, province here in Peru, will be celebrating another ceremony with Pedro Castillo, but with social movement and with popular movement. There are a lot of people around the country that is right now traveling to Ayacucho in order to attend this popular meeting with the participation of many others popular leaders in the continent, as Evo Morales Aymar, who is here in Peru right now. However, even when we are celebrating from social movements and popular movements, we are conscious about the new stage of struggle that opened and beginning with this with the beginning of the government of Pedro Castillo Terrones. The struggle is going to be hard. The Peruvian oligarchy have shown what they are able to do and what they're going to do to don't let the control of the state that they have been over more than 200 years. And also from social movements, and with this I finish, we are celebrating right now, as in many parts of the world, but mostly in the continent, another birthday of our chief in commander, Hugo Chavez Fria, that today we are celebrating the winning of the rural teacher and peasant as Pedro Castillo. And we remember that Hugo Chavez was a peasant also from Barinas. So this is a celebration day for Peru and for Latin America also.
So let's talk a bit about the new president's speech today, the high points and his vision for the country. And Juan, please join us in the conversation.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for letting me co-host this. I'm super excited. I mean, as a Peruvian living abroad, there is a lot of sense of celebration as well. And I would love to hear what Carlos has to say, Jose Carlos has to say about the speech, because for me, it has been really, really powerful. He basically gave a historical overview of colonialism and white supremacy and economic oppression, the whole history of Peru. He laid out how so many communities have been forgotten, like indigenous communities, Afro-Peruvian communities, and in particular for my community, the Asian community in Peru. I was also really pleased to see it mentioned because it rarely is. So yeah, Jose Carlos, you want to share your views?
Yes, I am agree with Juan that I think that the most powerful emotion part was the introduction, all the guidelines around his speech today regarding the anti-colonial struggle. Pedro Castillo have stated very clear that this struggle that we are beginning right now with his popular government is not a struggle that is beginning right now. It's a struggle from around 500 years since the European boots invade our continent and our people cultures. And for example, such a speech can be appreciated in a concrete way in the last part of his speech, when he says that the government palace that here in Peru we call Pizarro's house, Pizarro related to the conqueror, to the invader, Spanish invader, will be not anymore the place where the president practice his presidential faculties, and it will become in the building of the Ministry of Cultures. It's important to say this, not Ministry of Culture in a singular way, instead of cultures in a plural way. So I am agree with such part. And also I think there are two more categories around Pedro Castillo's presidential speech pronounced today that is important to take notice about this. One is refer to to two characteristics of Pedro Castillo, as we talked the last time with Code Ping. I hope you remember, Terry, is regarding the social justice. Around this first presidential speech, there is a lot of social justice actions that are going to be carried out during his government, and also this has been very clear in how it's going to be the economic approach of this government, and that is mainly focused in the wealth redistribution. I think that there are some important issues to highlight. For example, we know, as you know, that our country is a country, Peru depends of the exportation of commodities as minerals. We have a dependent economic here. And well, Pedro Castillo have said today that that kind of framework of our economy is not be permitted anymore. He's talking about right now to achieve social profitability instead of the social license that have been ruling our legal framework here in Peru, or regarding or related with all that is about the extractive industry. So that kind of message saying that you can make business here in our country. However, the first priority, if our people, if our territory, is our environment too. I think that there is a current message. If we remember the main slogan campaign of Pedro Castillo, that was "No more poor people in a rich country." Finally, the two main issues are urgent matters right now were tackled in a popular sovereign way. It's all that regarding to tackle the pandemic right now, specifically related to health and the economic reactivation right now. And this is important if we remember also that Peru has been the country with the most high rate of deaths for COVID-19. So I will organize the main aspects of Pedro Castillo presidential speech today in such categories: anti-colonial message, very strong, very powerful, social justice and welfare distribution, and finally, specific actions in order to tackle the pandemic regarding health and economic reactivation.
Wow, it's a big issues and a short list, but big issues. Let me and a short list that has many sub points under each major issue. There's a number of things I'd like us to expand on. First of all, regarding the extraction industry, does this mean there will no longer be an extraction industry, or does this mean the extraction industry will benefit the people of Peru first and transnational corporations second? Or does it just go away?
Well, he say very clear, we need a new mining approach, because, and I think that this explains all the Peruvian oligarchy opposition to Pedro Castillo, is that we in Peru have an oligarchy with an extractivist thinking, with a colonial thinking. They think that Peru is his backyard and they can do whatever they want, even don't comply with the rules and legislation that right now is enforceable in Peru. So what Pedro Castillo is saying is extractive industry will still operating. We need resort to all such social justice measures and action. We need money. However, such industry cannot be have the same behavior that we have been suffering since 200 years ago. Because remember, the history of Peru, the mining activities start since the colonial period with a lot of slave schemes, damaging the nature, the environment, and all kind of stuff. So the message of Castillo is we need extractive industry. However, we need such extractive industry that benefit our people and don't mess our environment. And for such, in order to achieve such goal, we need to be very strong in the compliance of the rules that right now are enforceable, because the problem is in Peru is that all the legislation regarding environmental matter or mining matter though are not complied by the mining companies, and even the fines that the mining companies have to pay, they don't pay, and there is no problem with that. So we need to comply with that, but also we have to take more steps in order to warrant and assure that this mining industry or this extractive industry will benefit our people and also our country, because in some specific points of the speech, Pedro Castillo, for example, talks about how we can appropriate and can take advantage of the technology developments that this kind of transnational corporation made in our country, because they came here, they invest in technology, they take our resources, and they all only pay a very low rate of tax and other kind of payment. So I think that's the approach of the new mining of Pedro Castillo.
And how about addressing the COVID-19 pandemic? What is the president's program for this?
I think that when I heard the presidential speech, I remember research developed by Tricon Institute the last year about the pandemic, that it was named, I don't know, it was Socialism and Capitalism, Coronavirus. This was a series. And when I heard the speech of Pedro Castillo, I remember the 4 main points that explain why some alternative projects like Cuba, China, Vietnam, Kerala in India have had very good results in order to tackle the pandemic. The first one is that Pedro Castillo, and he says in this speech, he's going to take all the political action and all the public policies going to be made in order to follow the science thinking, not in order of any ideology or such kind of thing. And that you can appreciate when he today announced the creation of the Science and Technology Ministry. The second one is referred to to strong the public investment in strategic areas in order to, for example, build hospitals and such kind of things that, for example, in the project that I mentioned before, we have found it. And today, Pedro Castillo have announced in the economic reactivation plan a very strong and deep plan of public investment in strategic areas, in strategic infrastructure, in order to create jobs, to create all the infrastructure in order to tackle this pandemic. And the third characteristic is referred to the participation of the community. That for example, we appreciate that here in our continent, in Cuba or in Venezuela, and I think that is an approach that mark a very important difference of Pedro Castillo's government with our other governments here in Peru, even with the last one of Francisco Sagasti, because I think that liberal and the oligarchy here don't trust in people, and they think that all the measures in order to tackle the pandemic are also have to be understood in the state area. But today Pedro Castillo have announced that we need the participation of social movement, of union, of all the people, and we need to organize and mobilize in order to tackle together the pandemic. And finally, have not been said today, but I think that you can appreciate in some another speech of Pedro Castillo before, is related with international solidarity. And I think that Cuba right now is the best example with the Henry Reef Brigade, and that I say all the world, all the planet, we cannot have success in the fight to the pandemic if we approach it in an isolated way. We need the solidarity of all the other countries in order to tackle this global problem in a global way. So I think that this is the kind of synthesis of what Pedro Castillo have said today regarding the main actions in order to tackle the pandemic here in Peru.
I have 2 points that I'd like both of you to comment on. First, regarding the president's vision for the country, his social, economic, and political vision, how will the president, the executive office, be working with the legislature, or how will the legislature support or not support the president? And also, I know both of you in prior episodes that I've talked with you, both brought this up, that there's 2 Perus. There's Lima and there's the rest of the country. And I can see, this is my personal observation opinion, but the 2 of you are far more capable of talking about this than myself. The need for the social movements outside of Lima has got to be just enormous in order to unite people behind all these different projects, and also to have an enormous population base supporting the president from the ground up. I mean, the people are going to have to really build multiple movements, I would suspect, to be certain that he has the voice and power of the people under him as he tries to move forward in the Capitol.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with your assessment, Terry. I think that it's pretty clear that Pedro Castillo wants to move from a free market economy to a more planned economy, like what Jose Carlos was saying, giving people the opportunity to decide whether their territories and their resources should be extracted, opportunities for industrialization. However, the legislature, it's going to be a tough challenge. Peru Libre does not have a majority in Congress. Even if you count like some of their allies, they don't have enough votes to actually maybe pass things through the legislature. So like you said, I think now it's a time for all social movements within Lima and outside of Lima to actually go out to the streets and demand the things that he has promised. Because I know for a fact that the opposition in Congress, all the right wingers in Congress are going to try to shut down any of his proposals, any of his reforms. So I suspect that the next 5 years are going to be tough, but I'm also really hopeful because I've seen that a lot of people, I've seen a lot of the left, I've seen a lot of the social movements from a broader spectrum come behind him and support him. And I think that's what gave him his victory. So yeah, that's what I think.
Jose Carlos, you are a social movement organizer. So what's your job now? Your job's
Well,
just no, you got Castillo elected, which was the first part. But now, as you said before we went live, it's like there's this whole nother phase of the work that has begun today.
Yes, I agree with the assessment of Juan that Juan have made right now. I will make like when I think about the challenges that are coming, I think like in three big boxes. The first one is the executive that today have shown many measures that, as Juan said, the social movement, popular movement, and all the Peruvian people have known and have confirmed that what they vote is right now in agenda, at least at this moment. No, because the struggle against the class struggle right now is going to go deep and deep during the next years. One thing I forgot to mention, and it is important and is related with this conflict relationship between the parliament and the government, is that Castillo today was very clear and strong in order to promote the path of the popular constituent assembly here for Peruvian people, write a new constitution with a plurinational approach, with a gender approach, and with this popular approach that I mentioned today. So I think that this is important. This is an important issue to understand the relationship between the government and the parliament during the next year. And the third box that when I think in challenge is related of what you mentioned, but I don't think so much in social movement or popular movement, but I think that it's more in the streets, in the people mobilized. Because one thing that I think many times is forgot is that the proclamation of Pedro Castillo was not the outcome of the Peruvian bureaucracy or of the Peruvian electoral authority. The proclamation of Pedro Castillo is the result of days of mobilizing, of protest, of many people, indigenous people, mostly of all Peru, that come to Lima since the June 6th in order to respect their vote, the popular vote around the country. So the street is going to be a field of struggle, that is clear, and we need to organize better, get unity, also educate in order to respond to the historical moment, as Fidel Castro mentioned, and I think in such way is the challenge of the social movement. And when you mentioned that I am social movement here, I think that it is important to say that the racism and the colonialism thinking and behavior against Pedro Castillo is not only related to the Lima right-wing groups, it's also within Lima left groups. So when you ask me what we need to do, I think that even that right now I am in Cusco, Urubamba, a province, but I am from Lima, the capital. I think that the task for us from Lima is to understand the moment and start to open a space of dialogue with our province, with the two main social forces that I think that are the authors of the winning of Pedro Castillo during the first round. That is the Peasants Patrol, Rondas Campesinas, that are around all the country, and the teacher unions, that is the most large union right now in Peru. So we need to understand such thing from Lima, from the colonial left thinking that's still here. And I think that we need to tackle, manage such contradiction as revolutionary, and start to dialogue and to open spaces of conversation and organization with the social movement and popular movement around the country, and stop to think that we from Lima are going to control, that we deserve all the ministry because we are from the Peruvian Ivy League University, and all such kind of stuff that I think that if they are not tackled in a Marxist way, in a materialism historical approach from Lima left groups, we are not responding to the historical task right now.
This is fascinating to me to hear, and I think your comments are relevant to many nations who have strong leftist movements, and I think Juan would support my comment on this, that we see this in the United States as well, that this fracturing or we don't think we have a racial bias on the left in the US, but as you've mentioned, and it's similar, and there's work to be done within our own political bodies. And what's interesting to me is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was this unification of progressive and leftists that elected Castillo. It was fascinating to many of us around the globe to watch, because this has not happened in other countries with a leftist candidate. There's often a fracture in the left. In Peru, the left unified and was able to get Castillo elected. And so I think what your comments now are really, really important, because overcoming some of these racial and economic and educational biases are going to be very, very important within the left itself to keep the left cohesive and supportive of the president. Because once it fractures, then it's going to be hard to have a widespread ground movement, unified ground movement.
Absolutely, Terry. I think that a lot of the things that Pedro Castillo has done today are symbolic, but I think that a lot of the people that voted for him in rural areas, indigenous people, Afro-Peruvian people, they are waiting actually to have leadership positions. They are waiting to be in power. They're waiting to have control of their territories and their resources. So if this coalition is to remain together, we within the left need to start acknowledging those biases that you mentioned. Like that anti-racist, anti-colonial work needs to be done within our own groups as well. We are not exempt from that, even though we're leftists.
So Jose, I just want to say, and I'm sure, I hope all of you know in Peru, and I'm sure Juan knows this because he's been there and back to the States, so many of us throughout the Americas are so excited, so thrilled, and so impassioned and hopeful for what Peru represents on this day today. It's just, I think, just please know, so many hearts and minds and prayers are with all of you to lead and join this return. I think so many of us are calling this return of the pink tide, as we're so hopeful to see the rise of more progressive and leftist governments in the Americas. And boy, Jose Carlos, when we talked in April, we were so thankful that Pedro Castillo made it through the first round, but who thought we would be talking today on his inauguration day. That's true, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really it's very exciting and it's very inspiring, and I think gives so many of us across the Americas a lot of hope. So what?
Thank you, Terry.
Well, oh no, thank you, and thank you for all your work, and you as well, Juan. What is there anything that you both would like to say in closing our program this evening? What can we do for you in Peru?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for such feelings. We share what are you talking right now? Social movement who practice this internationalism, and that's why also we remember today Hugo Chavez's birthday. Today I have receiving a lot of messages from comrades from Africa, from Asia, from North America, sharing this message of hope and joy and hope also for Peru, the continent, and the working class around the world. And I think that what we need as social movement or the Peruvian movement, we need a lot of international solidarity. And I mentioned this not just for maybe a social media strategy or that kind of thing. I mentioned this because from the other side, the Peruvian oligarchy have shown evidence that they will fight in order to recover the government by means of this alt-right profile as Bolsonaro, as Trump, as in Bolivia, Camacho, and there are a lot of proof that they are articulated with this fascist international network, for example, with the Spanish people of Vox. So if they are organizing in this international fascist movement, we need from the working class people around the world get united and support Pedro Castillo's project, the Peruvian People Project, the Popular Assembly, the Popular Constituent Assembly, because if we achieve that Peru will be not anymore a rich country with poor people, I am sure that we will achieve that the Earth will not be a rich planet with poor people around the world. So we need a lot of international solidarity, and I think that this kind of way and spaces organizing of you, our comrades from Code Pink, is an example of that. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. You know, you mentioned today being the birthday of Hugo Chavez, and Saturday was the anniversary of the birth of Simón Bolívar. So we had two historic leaders and visionaries to celebrate this week, and now we have a third with Pedro Castillo. So Juan, what would you like to add in closing our program?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Jose Carlos said. You know, it's a very hopeful and celebratory moment, but we need to stay organized. We need to keep mobilizing people in the streets. And as a Peruvian living abroad, I think that I am fully committed to international solidarity through the Democratic Socialists of America. It is time for the United States to turn a page from that imperialist and globalist agenda to one that is truly based on working class relationships, that is based on true international solidarity. And this is a historic opportunity. It could really set the stage for other elections in Latin America. So I'm feeling really hopeful and also ready to organize. Thank you.
So wonderful. So I want to thank both of you for joining us this evening, Jose Carlos Llerena and Juan Chang from the United States. So we've had Peruvians in Peru and a Peruvian in the US So I just also want to remind our audience that Code Pink's What the F is Going On in Latin America broadcasts every Wednesday on Code Pink YouTube, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and also be sure to catch Code Pink Radio every Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific on WBAI out of New York City and WPFW out of Washington, D.C. The program simulcasts on both stations. So thank you, gentlemen. Really an honor to have you both with us this evening on this very, very historical and exciting and visionary day. I'm so honored to have shared the program with you.